What is the point of having $2 million in the bank if you are physically broken, mentally dull, and completely irrelevant to the world? Most of you are blindly sprinting toward a finish line that doesn't exist. You are trading your vital years for numbers on a screen, ignoring the crushing weight in your chest and the panic that sets in every Sunday night. If you stay on this path, you will end up the richest person in the nursing home, alone, regretful, and waiting to die. Is that the victory you worked 40 years for? Let's stop the delusion. I'm Larry Ellison, and I know a few things about spotting value where others see nothing. While you are obsessing over interest rates, the smart money is moving into assets that inflation cannot touch. I am going to reveal the 7 assets you must acquire immediately if you want to be relevant, powerful, and truly free in retirement. Hit that subscribe button. We are done playing it safe. It's time to play to win. Let's look at the first asset, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you because nobody else will be. Most of you treat your body like a rental car you're about to return, not the primary engine of your existence. You spend hours obsessing over a 0.5% difference in your bond yield, staring at spreadsheets until your eyes bleed, but you haven't seen the inside of a gym in a decade. You are prioritizing the gas in the tank while the engine block is cracking in half. That is not investing, that is negligence. This is the asset of biological capital, and right now, for many of you, this business is failing. It is insolvent. Here is the reality you are ignoring. You can have $10 million in your brokerage account. You can have the beach house, the luxury SUV, and the golden watch. But if you cannot climb a flight of stairs without gasping for air, if your knees buckle when you get out of a chair, if your blood pressure is a ticking time bomb, you are bankrupt. You are poor. You just don't know it yet. I see this all the time. Men and women who grind for 40 years, sacrificing their sleep, their nutrition, and their movement to build a pile of cash. They finally cross the finish line, they retire, and within 18 months, they are irrelevant. They become professional patients. Their new full-time job is managing their decay. They trade the boardroom for the waiting room. Is that the vision you had? Is that why you worked those 60-hour weeks? To spend your golden years discussing prescriptions with a pharmacist? You need to understand the economics of frailty. Being physically weak is the most expensive liability you can carry into retirement. It is a massive short position against your own life. When you lose your mobility, you lose your autonomy. And when you lose your autonomy, you start hemorrhaging money. Assisted living facilities, in-home care, retrofitting your house because you can no longer step into a bathtub. This burns through cash faster than any market crash ever could. I treat my body like a high-performance machine because it is the vessel that allows me to execute my will on the world. I don't train to look good in a mirror. I train so my brain has oxygen, so my energy is relentless, so I am not dependent on anyone. You need to adopt the same mentality. Biological capital is composed of 2 things: muscle mass and metabolic health. First, let's talk about muscle. After age 40, if you are not actively lifting heavy things, you are losing muscle mass every single year. It's called sarcopenia. It is the slow, silent liquidation of your physical assets. You are literally wasting away. If you are sitting there right now, soft, weak, and comfortable, you are losing equity in your own body. You are becoming fragile. And in nature, fragile things do not survive. They are broken. You need to stop viewing exercise as a lifestyle choice or a vanity project. It is risk management. It is asset protection. Every pound of muscle you build is a hedge against the nursing home. It is a hedge against falling and breaking a hip, which, let's be honest, is often the beginning of the end for people your age. Second is metabolic health. Look at what you are putting into your mouth. Most of you eat like rebellious teenagers with a credit card. Sugar, processed carbohydrates, alcohol. You are poisoning the CEO. You are pouring sand into the gears of a Ferrari and wondering why it's sputtering. If you are diabetic, hypertensive, or chronically inflamed, you are carrying a massive debt load that will be called in, and the collector is ruthless. The cost isn't just financial, it's psychological. Imagine the humiliation of having the money to travel to Italy, but not having the stamina to walk the streets of Rome. Imagine having the wealth to buy a boat, but being too unsteady to step onto the deck. That is a special kind of hell. It is Tantalus in the underworld, surrounded by fruit and water you can never reach. That is where you are heading if you don't pivot immediately. So here is your mandate. Stop looking at the S&P 500 for 1 hour a day and look at your biological metrics. What is your resting heart rate? What is your grip strength? What is your body composition? If you don't know these numbers, you are a negligent CEO. You are running your business into the ground. You need to audit your routine. If you are sitting for 8 hours a day, you are killing yourself. If you are eating convenience food because you are too busy or too tired, you are lying to yourself. You are not too busy. You are lazy. And laziness in retirement is fatal. Start treating your physical resilience as the primary compounding asset in your portfolio. Invest in a trainer. Invest in quality food. Invest in sleep. These returns are tax-free, and they compound effectively forever. If you don't, rest assured, the market won't kill your retirement dreams. You will. You will rot from the inside out while your bank account sits full and useless. But let's assume you fix the body. Let's assume you get physically tough. That's only the hardware. What happens when the software, your mind, starts to glitch because you stopped using it? You fixed the hardware. Now let's look at the software. And frankly, for most of you, the operating system is obsolete. There is a concept I call retirement rot. It is the rapid, terrifying acceleration of cognitive decline that happens the moment you step away from the pressure of the workforce. You spend 40 years solving complex problems, navigating office politics, managing budgets, and learning new technologies. You are sharp because you have to be. The market demands it. Then you retire. You shut it all down. You tell yourself you've earned the right to turn your brain off. You start your days with mindless news consumption. You drift through the afternoon, and you end the day zoning out in front of the television. You think you are relaxing. You are not relaxing. You are atrophying. Your brain is an asset. It is the command center of your entire empire. But it is a merciless asset. It follows the law of use it or lose it with brutal efficiency. When you stop challenging your mind with novelty and complexity, your brain literally starts to prune its own connections. It thinks, we aren't using this circuitry anymore, so let's cut the power. You are voluntarily engaging in a controlled demolition of your own intellect. Why is this a financial issue? Because stupidity is expensive. Here is a statistic that should terrify you. Financial literacy peaks in your 50s and declines by about 1% to 2% every single year after age 60. But here's the kicker. Your confidence in your financial decisions does not decline. It actually stays the same or increases. That is a lethal combination. It means you are getting dumber, but you still think you're a genius. That gap between your perceived ability and your actual ability is where the predators live. If you let your cognitive capital depreciate, you become prey. You become the person who falls for the sophisticated scam. You become the person who makes an emotional panic sell when the market dips, because you've lost the mental fortitude to analyze the data. You become the person who signs a contract you don't fully understand because reading the fine print feels too hard now. I see retirees who were once brilliant engineers or executives, and within 5 years of leaving the game, they can barely hold a conversation about anything other than the weather or their ailments. They have become boring. They have become irrelevant. And in this world, irrelevance is a death sentence. If you want to maintain your wealth, You must maintain your edge. You cannot coast. You must adopt a philosophy of aggressive, lifelong learning. And I don't mean doing a crossword puzzle or playing Sudoku on your iPad. That is maintenance. That is not growth. That is walking around the block when you need to be sprinting uphill. You need high-friction cognitive load. You need to do things that make you feel stupid at first. That is the feeling of growth. Look at the world right now. Artificial intelligence, blockchain, global economic shifts. The landscape is changing faster today than at any point in human history. Most retirees look at this and say, "That's for the young people. I don't need to know that." That is the attitude of a loser. That is the attitude of someone who has resigned themselves to being a relic. A smart retiree, a retiree who thinks like a billionaire, looks at the changing world and attacks it. Learn how to use ChatGPT to optimize your schedule. Learn a new language so you can travel with authority, not just as a tourist. Learn to code. Learn complex strategy games. Engage in debates with people who disagree with you to sharpen your rhetoric. This is about neuroplasticity. It is the ability of your brain to rewire itself. You can build new neural pathways at 70, 80, even 90, but you have to force it. You have to demand it. If you don't, you lose your seat at the table. You become the old person in the corner that the family tolerates but ignores. You lose your authority. You lose your agency. You become a dependent, relying on your children or your advisors to interpret the world for you because you became too lazy to keep up. Do not let that happen. Your mind is the weapon that built your wealth. Do not disarm yourself just because you stopped punching a time clock. Keep the blade sharp. Read difficult books. Study complex subjects. Force your brain to sweat. Because if you have the body of a Greek god and the bank account of a king, but your mind is mush, you enjoy none of it. You are just a wealthy vessel waiting to be emptied by someone smarter than you. But let's say you are physically tough and mentally sharp. You are ready to dominate. There is still one massive external threat that can drain your energy and your accounts faster than anything else. It's the people you let into your life. Now we arrive at the most uncomfortable truth of this entire conversation. This is the one you will resist the most because you have been conditioned to be nice. You have been trained to be polite. And that politeness is costing you a fortune in emotional equity. We need to talk about your relational leverage. Specifically, we need to talk about the people you are allowing into your life. Here is the reality. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You've heard that quote a million times, but have you actually applied it to your retirement strategy? Or are you just letting whoever happens to be nearby take up your time? Most retirees operate their social lives on autopilot. You hang out with the people you worked with for 20 years. You hang out with the neighbors because they are there. You hang out with old college buddies because of history. You are loyal. That loyalty is misplaced. It is a strategic error. If you look at your circle right now, I guarantee it is filled with what I call emotional vampires. These are the people who suck the life force right out of you. You know exactly who I am talking about. The guy who turns every lunch into a grievance session about his ex-wife or his prostate. The couple who does nothing but complain about the government, the weather, and the price of gas. The friends whose entire identity is wrapped up in what they used to be rather than who they are becoming. These people are liabilities. In a business, when a division bleeds cash and produces zero innovation, you shut it down. You liquidate it. You don't keep pouring resources into it because you feel sentimental. Yet, in your life, your only life, you continue to invest your most precious resource, your time, into people who give you zero return on investment. You need to understand the contagion of mediocrity. Human beings are herd animals. We have mirror neurons. If you surround yourself with low energy, pessimistic, cynical people, you will become low energy, pessimistic, and cynical. It is biological inevitability. You cannot be a high-performance, abundance-minded retiree if you are swimming in a cesspool of negativity every Tuesday night. They are dragging you down to their baseline. They are anchors. And if you are trying to sail into a retirement of freedom and growth, you cannot afford to drag 3 tons of dead weight behind you. I want you to conduct a ruthless audit of your social circle. Tonight, sit down with a piece of paper and write down the names of the 10 people you see the most. Next to each name, put a plus sign or a minus sign. A plus sign means, after I spend time with this person, I feel energized, I feel smarter, I feel challenged. We talk about ideas, the future, and growth. A minus sign means, after I spend time with this person, I feel drained, I feel tired, I feel anxious. We talked about the past, other people, or ailments. If you are honest, most of your list is going to be minus signs. You need to have the courage to fire your friends. I know that sounds harsh. Larry, I can't just cut people off. Yes, you can. And you must. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to cause a scene. You just have to stop being available. You stop initiating. You stop accepting the invitations to the pity parties. You slowly drift away from the coast of misery and head toward the open ocean. You are protecting your headspace. When you remove the complainers and the victims from your life, you suddenly have a surplus of energy. You have the bandwidth to think about your investments, your health, and your legacy. But here is the fear holding you back. You are afraid of being alone. You think, if I cut these people off, who will I talk to? Better to be alone in a palace of peace than crowded in a dungeon of despair. Solitude is power. Solitude is where you find yourself. But you won't be alone for long. When you create a vacuum, nature fills it. When you clear out the dead wood, you make room for new growth. You need to actively seek out growth friends. These are likely people you don't know yet. They might be younger than you, and they should be. Why do you only hang out with people your own age? That is an echo chamber of decay. Find people 10, 15 years younger who are still in the building phase. Their energy is infectious. Their optimism is useful to you. Seek out people who are wealthier than you, not just in money, but in spirit. People who are doing things you want to do. If you want to get fit, stop hanging out with your drinking buddies and find a cycling group. If you want to build a business in retirement, stop talking to your retired neighbor who watches news 12 hours a day and find an entrepreneur group. Relationships are leverage. The right conversation can open a door that saves you 10 years of struggle. The right friend can give you a stock tip, a health hack, or a perspective shift that changes your entire trajectory. But those people are not going to come knocking on your door while you are sitting there listening to Bob complain about his hip replacement for the 50th time. You have to curate your inner circle like a museum curator. Only the masterpieces get in. Everything else is clutter. This is your life. You are on the clock. You do not have time to be polite to energy vampires. You do not have time to suffer fools. Guard your gate. Erect a velvet rope. If they don't bring value, joy, or challenge to the table, they don't get a seat. So we've fixed the body, we've sharpened the mind, and we've purged the toxic relationships. You are becoming a fortress. But there is one final asset that determines if you actually enjoy any of this. It is the one thing you think you have plenty of, but you are actually squandering it by the hour. We have arrived at the final asset, and this is the one that separates the truly wealthy from the merely rich. It is the asset of time sovereignty. Most of you have this completely backward. You spent your entire career thinking, I can't wait to retire so I can do nothing. You fantasized about the empty calendar. You dreamed of the day when the alarm clock wouldn't ring. And now you have it. You have the empty calendar. And let me tell you what I see when I look at the average retiree. I see panic. I see boredom. I see a slow, agonizing suffocation under the weight of meaningless hours. You traded the stress of the corporate world for the hell of idleness. And believe me, idleness is a far more dangerous enemy. Stress might give you a heart attack, but idleness will hollow out your soul until there is nothing left. You are treating time like it is a surplus commodity. You act like you have an infinite supply. You sit through 3-hour lunches talking about nothing. You watch 5 hours of cable news, getting angry at people who don't know you exist. You nap because you have nothing else to do. This is not freedom. This is waiting to die. Let's use a business analogy. If you ran a factory and you let the machinery sit idle for 16 hours a day, producing nothing, servicing no clients, generating no value, investors would scream. They would call it mismanagement. They would fire the CEO. Well, you are the CEO of your life, and your factory, your time, is sitting idle. You are hemorrhaging your most precious, non-renewable capital. You are lighting it on fire. Time sovereignty is not about relaxing. Relaxing is what you do for an hour to recharge. Sovereignty is about agency. It is about waking up every single morning with a clear, aggressive mission. It is about knowing exactly why your feet are hitting the floor. The vacation mindset works for 2 weeks. After 6 months, it is a depressant. It destroys your dopamine receptors. You need a purpose. And I don't mean finding yourself. I mean finding a job. Not a job for money. You have money. A job for impact. A smart retiree structures their day with the same ruthlessness as a Fortune 500 executive. They have a calendar. They have objectives. They have KPIs, key performance indicators, for their personal life. But Larry, I retired to get away from schedules. Wrong. You retired to get away from other people's schedules. You did not retire to drift. Drifting is for shipwrecks. Captains have a course. If you wake up tomorrow morning and you do not have 3 high-value things you must accomplish, you are failing. You are letting entropy win. What should you be doing? You should be building. Build a business. Build a charity. Build a mentorship program. Build a garden that rivals Versailles. I don't care what it is, but it must demand something from you. It must require focus, discipline, and effort. There is a concept called the urgency of now. You need to stop saying someday. You have been saying someday I'll write that book, or someday I'll learn to sail for 30 years. Look at the actuarial tables. You do not have 30 more years of some days. You might have 10 good ones, maybe 5. If you aren't executing on your dreams right now, you aren't a dreamer. You are a procrastinator. And procrastination at 65 is not a bad habit. It is a tragedy. I want you to look at your time as an investment vehicle. Every hour you spend must yield a return. Watching TV? 0 return. Negative return, actually, because it kills brain cells. Mentoring a young entrepreneur? Massive return in satisfaction and legacy. Building a custom bookshelf? Return in skill and pride. Writing your memoirs for your grandkids? Infinite return in generational wisdom. Stop killing time. Time is killing you. You need to pivot from being a consumer of leisure to an investor of moments. The world is full of retirees who are comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. I don't want you to be comfortable. I want you to be exhausted at the end of the day. Not from stress, but from effort, from living, from squeezing every single drop of juice out of the orange. That is time sovereignty. It is the refusal to let a single second slip by unobserved and unutilized. It is the audacity to demand that your retirement years be the most productive, impactful years of your entire life. So here is the summary. The game has changed. The old model of retirement, saving a pile of cash, quitting work, and slowly decaying on a golf course, is dead. That model leads to irrelevance, physical frailty, and spiritual bankruptcy. It is a trap. If you want to win, and I mean really win, you have to shift your entire strategy. Stop banking on cash alone. It is a vanity metric. Invest in biological capital. Build muscle, fix your metabolism, and refuse to be fragile. Sharpen your cognitive agility. Force your brain to learn, adapt, and grow. Do not let the lights go dim. Leverage your relationships. Purge the emotional vampires and surround yourself with energy and youth. Seize time sovereignty. Stop drifting. Create a mission. Attack your days with urgency. You have the resources. You have the experience. You have the freedom. The only thing missing is the mindset. Do not let your life fizzle out in a comfortable chair. Treat these years like a startup. Be aggressive. Be bold. Be unapologetic about living a life of massive abundance. The clock is ticking. You don't have time to be average anymore. I'm Larry Ellison. If this shook you up, good. That means you're still alive. Now go do something about it. Subscribe to the channel. We are just getting started building your empire. I'll see you in the next one.